presentation. Lots of questions, I'm sure, for that. But now let's get on. We have a short period of time. In 1 hour, we're going to go through 6 10-minute talks. I'm going to be a demon chair and keep everybody absolutely to time. But we have a stellar cast who'll get their messages across in a few words. So I have no fears for them but keeping this to time. And without further ado, we start with my old friend, Professor Orla Feely from University College Dublin, who's going to talk to us about university industry collaboration, factors for success. Orla.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's a great pleasure to be here, everybody, and I look forward to a very interesting and productive session. Christian's talk already has sparked very interesting thoughts, and I think is quite consistent with what I'm going to present. So I'll go through this, as you say, Jonathan, very quickly. So what is the opportunity in university industry collaboration? It is about bringing research ideas to market. Researchers who want their ideas to make a difference to the world, they can get them out to market. And indeed, companies that want to reach into research in order to hit the market need, they can reach in and find that in universities, all going well. For both sides, for both the universities and the industry, it brings access. The universities can access industry insight. What are the big challenges? What are the barriers to progress? Where is the market headed? Similarly, the companies can access in the universities, they can access research ideas, expertise, and the horizon scanning undertaken by researchers as to what might be coming down the tracks in their areas. One can get access to industrial facilities, data that might be assimilated by an industry, and indeed vice versa. Companies, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, might want to access facilities in the nearby universities. Crucially, there is the opportunity to develop talent. This is, as we all know, one of the key benefits of research activity, to develop great talent and transfer it out for the benefit of society and the economy. We know that most of the research talent, the PhD students, the postdocs that we develop, they will not find employment in academia. They will move out into industry and to other sectors. And to develop that talent in an atmosphere coloured by industrial expertise produces better talent and can support the transfer more effectively. We can enhance the excellence of our research, its impact, and also the reputation of our universities by delivering research that has great impact on society through close engagement with industry. And obviously at the moment, the COVID-19 vaccines are a great example of how research ideas can have immediate impact in enormously important ways and can greatly contribute to the reputation of the universities. We can support regional development, national and European development. We can build public and government support for research. If the public and government see, and Christian alluded to this, that research is having transformational impact, they are more likely to support it. And at the end, and it's a reality, access to funding. Access to direct funding by industry of research, access to licensing funding streams, access to government funding that is predicated on industrial involvement. So all of these are part of the opportunity that is embodied in university industry collaboration. Now, what are the barriers to success? Well, first of all, accessing the right partner, figuring out even if a company, particularly a smaller company, has a research need, where can they access the right partner to work with them on this? Likewise, a university has an idea. How do you access the right industry partner to bring your idea to market? There is the potential threat to reputation of a research institution if it gets involved with certain industries, certain industry sectors, or there's the potential for a conflict of interest or an apparent conflict of interest if the research is very clearly sponsored by a particular industry or particular sector. Questions might be raised as to its objectivity. It can be the case that engagement is seen particularly within universities, but also within industry. Engagement is not incentivized, it is not funded, it is not valued. It may be that it is not recognized, for example, in the promotion system of a university. It may be that there are no ready funding mechanisms available. Or it might be seen that research with industry diverts from the fundamental desire of many researchers to deliver that breakthrough research. And if that is seen to be orthogonal to the collaboration with industry, then we have a problem. There are contractual blockages, there are blockages around IP, there are blockages imposed by the regulatory environment in which we exist that make it difficult to progress collaborations. They are very typically there for very good reasons, but they can also, and depending on their implementation, they can also make it difficult for people to progress their projects and can result in frustration or delays that mean that the projects don't succeed or don't even progress. There can be incompatible expectations or motivations. Timescales, for example, are very different. If an industry wants a response within the coming months around a challenge, and the researcher wants to take on a PhD student to investigate it, those are not compatible timelines. If the researcher wants to publish their outcomes and their outputs in high impact publications, and industry wants to keep it silent for very good commercial reasons, again, incompatible expectations lead to difficulty, and these are compounded and often caused by poor communications. If there is not clear communication about who is doing what and when and why from the very outset of a relationship, even before a project, again, this is a barrier to success. Inadequate supports are a problem. If academics are expected to manage all of the contractual and regulatory issues, all of the relationship management without the support of dedicated teams in their institutions, then their time will be eroded and they won't have the capacity to deliver. And then finally, and a very blanket one, all the inabilities to deliver. If people enter into a project and let's say the company attention is shifted elsewhere and therefore they no longer have the interest in continuing the relationship. If an academic finds that they are so consumed with their teaching that they just don't have time to develop the proposition as was originally envisaged. If, as Christian alluded to, if the results that are being delivered don't stand up to industrial standards in terms of reproducibility, these are problems not only for an individual project, but for the entire relationship and for the entire ability for the institutions to collaborate going forward. So what then can various parties in this relationship do in order to maximize the chances of success? So the individuals involved, first of all, within the research performing organizations and within the industry partners, need to commit to delivering success for all involved, not just for their own interests, but for those with whom they are partnering. This has to be a win-win. People need to communicate effectively around expectations, around milestones, around contributions and measures of success. So from the outset, it needs to be made very clear who is doing what and why. How will we know if we are successful? What is the timeline here? This needs to be made very, very clear. Individuals need to comply with the policy requirements. Again, within the university setting in particular, very often our academics are very frustrated by the demands of the regulatory environment in which we have to exist, particularly in our collaboration with industry. And yet these policies are here for a very good reason, and we do need to comply with them. So we need the cooperation of all involved to take this as a priority to make sure that we do deliver on our policy expectations. And individuals also need to take time to build the relationship, invest time in this, recognize that at its finest, a university-industry relationship will last a long time, will span multiple projects, and we need to work over time to cultivate the relationship and build success on success. What do universities need to do? First of all, establish that innovation culture that clearly values and rewards university-industry collaboration. This cannot be seen as an add-on or at worst even a distraction. It needs to be seen as a core element of academic success, valued and rewarded as such. The universities need to build relationships at all levels. So that means from the president of the university with his or her counterpart in the industry, all the way down to the students on the ground with their counterparts in the industry. We need to make sure that these relationships are strong. Our TT offices have strong relationships with their counterparts, our HR, our legal offices, all have good relationships with their counterparts in key industry collaborators. And we need to build relationships with partners at all scales, recognizing that these are different. So for a university to collaborate with a large multinational company is not the same thing as collaborating with a small or medium-sized enterprise. We need to recognize the differences and respond. We need to provide strong supports in our teams that support the academics, strong facilities on our campus, and strong policies. And we need to prioritize success in implementation. So this means that we don't want to have contracts sitting on people's desks for weeks or months. People need to know that this is a priority and we want it to succeed, and let's do whatever we need to do, bearing in mind the constraints under which we operate, to deliver success. And we want to showcase success and also learn from failure. So where a project doesn't work, let's learn from it, let's adapt our processes. Where something does work, let's be very proud of it and showcase it and build on it. Factors for industry, I put these down as the same. Obviously there are differences, but broadly speaking, we need a culture that values and rewards this collaboration. We need strong relationships at all levels. We need strong supports, facilities, policies, and really drive success. Again, we don't want the contract sitting on the desks for weeks. We want to showcase success and learn from failure. And then the final of the four is the government and funding bodies. We want to have a variety of proactive funding instruments at all scales. So at every level of engagement, we need to have proactive funding instruments. And my next and final slide, I'll show some examples from Ireland. We need government to ensure an appropriate policy environment and understand the impacts. Sometimes government can pile on compliance regulations without understanding the impact that this will have on the ability to deliver. We need government to embed industrial higher education collaboration in its industrial development policy and also in how it funds and supports higher education. And we need government and funding bodies to promote constructive dialogue, bring industry partners, researchers, all the various stakeholders together to talk and to figure out how we succeed. And then finally, just within Ireland, just some examples of some of the funding instruments we have. We have major multi-institutional centres, the ones that Christian talked about, with very significant industry involvement and funding. And often multiple industry partners can come together in a university environment in ways that are different in other environments because it's pre-competitive and allows them to talk in a more constructive way. We have funding for bilateral partnerships, funding for our knowledge transfer teams and for our incubators and accelerators on our campuses. We've commercialization funding at all steps of the journey, from the earliest proof of concept through to the establishment and funding of startups. And we've funding for the exchange of people, PhD students, faculty, to transfer back and forth between universities and industry, including into the policy system, which is enormously important. So that was a real whistle stop, I know, but Jonathan, I do know you are a demon for timing. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to a productive discussion.
Thank you, Orla. And 1 minute over. So there we are. You've set a fairly tough pace for everybody else to keep up with. So the next speaker is Professor Karin Berglund from Stockholm University, who's going to talk about cooperation with industry, a matter of building bridges within the university. Karin.
Thank you so much, and for inviting me to this exciting webinar. So I will talk about then cooperation with industry and perhaps with the surrounding society. And I will reflect upon that it's also a matter of building then the bridges within the university. At least that is my experiences of being a professor working at Stockholm University. So this is where I'm working. It's a large university. We have many disciplines in the areas of both natural sciences and the humanities and social sciences. And at the moment, I'm a representative of innovation at the humanities and social sciences. And this always leads me into discussions with my colleagues. So how can we relate to innovation from the different disciplines? And this is basically what I'm going to talk to you about, because I think there are conflicts when it comes to our understanding of knowledge creation and the relation to innovation also within the university. So what I'm going to ask is there such a thing as the Entrepreneurial University? And how can we think about the Entrepreneurial University as a hub of delivering this kind of collaborative experiences with stakeholders in society? And then building bridges. So what happens in these meetings and when I meet colleagues from the different disciplines? On the one hand, I hear that the Entrepreneurial University, it's about strengthening the impact of university and society. It's about advancing technology. It's about developing an entrepreneurial culture and to strengthen industry collaboration. And then to find, ways of developing solutions together, often with relation to the challenges that we face today in the global societies, and then to find the external parties to do so with. On the other hand, I also meet colleagues that argue that as part of an entrepreneurial society, the Entrepreneurial University just gives prominence to individualism, to competitiveness, to market logics and economic rationality. And this just turns everyone and everything into kind of an entrepreneurial being. And it becomes more of a prescriptive force to become entrepreneurial. And then we miss this about other aspects of life and of innovation as well. And this stifles knowledge creation. So what I'm asking is then, in what way can different scholarly disciplines collaborate with and contribute to surrounding society? And what I've been doing is, in a chapter in this book, it's just coming, it's called an Alternative Entrepreneurial University. We conceptualize this as the Entrepreneurial University, and then we kind of experiment with ideas about an alternative entrepreneurial university. Then positioning entrepreneurship as something that has changed throughout history, that we learn from William Baumol, where he teaches us that entrepreneurship in one society can be very productive and constructive, and in other societies it has even been destructive. And also with the inspiration from Mariana Mazzucato, teaching us about the entrepreneurial state in the heydays of the 60s in the US, and where we can learn that entrepreneurship does not need to be linked to the individual. It can also be linked to societal structures. So what we do in this book is that we ask questions to then the Entrepreneurial University from the concepts of democracy and of knowledge creation. And that is what I will show you now. So when we go to the conventional view of the Entrepreneurial University and we link that to democracy, I think what we see is this: that innovations become a result of knowledge-intensive processes. And in this university, it can result in novel products and services that can revolutionize the democratic welfare society and benefit its citizens. And these are just a few examples. And in that sense, innovations from the university in collaboration with other stakeholders can contribute to employment, societal progress, etc. If we then go to the alternative entrepreneurial university, a bit questioning innovation, the assumption then of entrepreneurship and democracy is that we now live in this entrepreneurial society. It requests of us to have a broadened view of entrepreneurship and of innovation as an integral part of human activity. So we kind of have, this is let loose in a sense in society. And this implies that the many people should be invited and involved. It has become a democratic right in a sense to be entrepreneurial and to be part of developing this. And here entrepreneurship is seen as contributing not only to economic growth, but also to ecological and social sustainability, cultural exploration, social change, and individual empowerment. So it's broader. And what do we learn from this? Well, I think the questions that we pose in these two different kinds of universities are on the one hand focused on technologies and advancements. They are of importance for various sectors in society. So what kind of technologies can we develop? And which disciplines can contribute to solve a particular problem? And then how can they cooperate? And also how can existing technology be used in a new context or combined into innovations? Whilst in the alternative entrepreneurial university, it's more about how university practices as educational practices can facilitate reflexivity with regards to the role of entrepreneurship in late capitalism. And I think it's also a matter of democratic self-reflection that we find to be necessary, in particular in times of turmoil when democratic institutions are challenged and dismantled. And when we come to knowledge, we also find different ways of relating to what we call episteme, the scientific knowledge, techne, technical knowledge, or phronesis, practical wisdom, all of which we then fetch from Aristotle. And what we ask here is, are all the three approaches to knowledge emphasized in the two kinds of universities? And if not, what is suppressed and marginalized? And how can connections be made to facilitate a process where all of these knowledge claims are present and can be influential in collaboration? So where we end up in our chapter and in our discussion on how the two universities, the two kinds of universities could collaborate and find a bridge, is that whilst one is focusing on this main question, which technology can solve the problem, the other one is focused on the question of which kind of society can solve the problem. So it's not a matter of either or. We need to have both here, and we need to find ways for them to collaborate and to meet the stakeholders in society, to find other ways of approaching the complexities of problems that we face. And in that sense, I think that the interplay of the different kinds of universities, or the different disciplines, can set the stage for a development of innovation that together can create stability for long-term investments, where new knowledge can be turned into both new technologies and novel ways of organizing society. So collaboration with industry and with the surrounding society, we argue, is dependent on an ongoing collaboration also within the university, of finding ways of not being lost in translation, but to find a language where we understand each other's knowledge claims, how we do research, how we view these challenges, and how we think about our contributions to solving them. And the different knowledge claims and approaches to democracy, they need to be acknowledged if we wish to contribute to a more sustainable future. As someone said before me, it's not only about this new COVID vaccine that is absolutely amazing. It's also about the logistics, about talking to people about it, about informing people, etc. I think you understand the issue here. So thank you from me with these words.
Thank you very much. That was a brilliant talk and perfectly to time, and really exciting and lots to discuss when we come round to that. So we move on now to Professor François Bussy, who comes from the University of Lausanne, who's going to get academia out of its ivory tower and talk about the challenge of instilling an entrepreneurial spirit in a non-technical university. François.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, University of Lausanne is not an entrepreneurial university, nor a technical university. So what are we doing at UNIL? First, a few facts about the University of Lausanne for those of you who don't know it. It's a rather small size university at the European scale, I would say. It's about 17,000 students, and it's a specialized university. We don't have any more math, physics, and chemistry departments, which were moved to the neighboring EPFL school about 20 years ago. And it's a 7-faculty university, which is focusing on 3 different poles: environmental sciences, life and medical sciences, and human and social sciences. And it's organized in 7 faculties. You have the list of here. And among these faculties, not so many people are interested in getting connected to industry. Very few indeed. We have people from the business and economics faculty, of course, but not that much. They are interested in developing some artificial intelligence softwares and things like that. But it's mostly people from the biology and medical sciences, as you can guess. And actually about 20 years ago, we created a tech transfer office, like in many places worldwide. And it's a very traditional office, which is dealing with clients mostly from, as I said, biomedical sciences, and they are dealing with intellectual property, collaboration contracts with industry or other high schools, like license, research and service contracts, things like that. And as a matter of fact, what we realize is that these people are not very exciting, I must say. Most people think that they are representing more a controlling unit than a promotion unit. And usually they get your attention on potential problems, limitations, rules, instead of making you happy and energetic and innovative. And that was the case for many years. And finally, 5 years ago, when the new rectorate, it's not anymore new, but the rectorate stepped in, we decided to change things and to start setting up a culture of innovation, as Christian and Orla said before. And it was a tough job because, our predecessors didn't want to hear about any connection with industry apart from those few guys in the TT office, and it was like almost like a dirty word to mention any collaboration with the industry. And but Christians mentioned that, that kind of mind which was also prevailing at UNIL. And it took us some time, and we were very cautious when setting up what we have called a hub on entrepreneurship and innovation. And this hub was created finally in 2019. So it took us at least three years to start and to try convincing the community of students and of professors and other colleagues to go into that direction and to bring innovative solutions mostly to societal challenges, as Orla mentioned just before, and to focus on interdisciplinary and interfaculty projects. And the motto is inspire, educate, and activate. And in terms of inspiration, we first spotted who at UNIL, or who was formerly at UNIL among the alumni community, who succeeded in setting up a company. And some of them are very famous worldwide, by the way. And we created this club of the 100 entrepreneurs at UNIL. And we try to ask them to inspire our students. And we did a number of videos, and also we invite them for workshops so that they can give some kind of example of their own parcours and what they did. This is for inspiration. As for education, we have set up a number of interdisciplinary courses which are credited. We have a few examples here. Like a course, it's a third year bachelor course credited with 3 credits on social innovation, for example. This one is a master course, 3 credits as well on sustainable innovation challenge, and so on and so on. So we have about 8 to 10 interdisciplinary courses which are offered to the students at different levels. And then in terms of activation, which is something more concrete, we have set up a 3-level activation program, what we call You Create. So we have You Create 1, which is a one-to-one session. Each interested students or member of staff or postdoc or professor can ask for a session, a one-to-one session with a member or team member of the hub or an expert. And it lasts for 30 minutes to 1 hour. And then the person can present his or her ID and try to figure out if something can be done with that. And if yes, you move to the step 2, You Create 2, which is taking part to workshops. There are 3 evening workshops gathering a number of people who have been identified during step 1. And you also have 3 training modules trying to pitch your idea, to clarify what you want to do, what you can do. and you're also supported by a coach. And then you can apply to the step 3, you create 3, and try to have some funding to be accelerated. Okay, it's a first step accelerator. You don't get much money. You can get up to 10,000 francs to start. And it's a program over 16 weeks with a number of training modules. And also you have access to a co-working space within the university campus where you can meet people, share your ideas, your knowledge. And you benefit from a coaching. So that's what we do. And also this community tries to keep people busy and alive. And they also prepare quite a few number of events during the year. Like you have the next 3 ones over April and May. And also you can have some examples of these 100 entrepreneurs at UNIL. You have videos where people just tell you how they did. And for example, Jean-Claude Biver is a very famous watchmaker, and he tells us what he did, how we did it, and you have other examples here. So, so far, some numbers about this initiative. Last year, which was the first full year of exercise, I would say, and despite the coronavirus, we managed to get more than 2,000 affiliates, whereas before the PACT, the TT office, were interesting far less than 1% of the UNIL community. So quite a few people are interested in this new initiative, students, but not only, all staff categories. And you can also be a technician, and you can also present your ideas. All faculties are represented, and we had 94 applications for the activation program, more specifically, and among them, 13 projects have been funded and accelerated in the You Create 3 program, and got this amount of funding, which is again very low, but it allows you to start doing something. But then you can connect with the nationwide innovation programs. As you know, Switzerland is very much advanced in terms of innovation, and you can apply for funding at different levels, at the local government level, at the cantonal level, I would say, and also at the national level. And there is also a program which is connecting the SNF research program to the Innovation Switzerland office. And then you can get, of course, much more money, like 100, 200,000 to keep going and further accelerate your idea, and maybe to end up sometime with a startup. And we will also dedicate a building in 2022, next year, for enlarging the co-working space. So this is basically what we do at UNIL. And again, it was kind of a revolution, I would say, in this respect, because the community was not quite ready to this new culture of innovation. But we try. We are at an early stage, but I think we will manage to make people aware of the interest to be innovative and creative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, François. And again, brilliantly kept to time. And now we've got Iona Galaron, who's Professor of French Literature at the Université Sorbonne Nouvelle. And she's got a tough challenge, which is to talk about how to stimulate social science and humanities